is going on, everyone? This is episode 61 of the Standing Podcast. I'm Aaron Storial with my usual suspects, Tommy Russ Jr., Corny Tanner, and we got special guest panelists with us, Gary Kittleson from 3D Boxing Live. We also plan to have Joseph Correa on from Front Proof Media. He's not in yet. Hopefully he'll make it. Shout out to Michael Gomes. Hopefully he'll be on with us, but we know he's going through some things right now, but hopefully he'll be able to make it tonight. But anyways, guys, big show tonight, episode 61. First off, we'll be reviewing the post-fight of Vasyl Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez. Amazing fight. Yep, last Saturday, October 17th, at the Bubble, the MGM Grand for Top Rank ESPN. Teofimo Lopez became the youngest at 23 to be the four-belt champion in lightweight history at the expense of top pound-for-pound ranked Vasyl Lomachenko. What actually transpired in the fight was the exact opposite of what I predicted, which was a unanimous decision win for Lomachenko. The majority of boxing pundits, from what I could tell, envisioned a Lopez victory coming only by knockout, but as it turned out, it was Lopez who was the tactician, actually beating Lomachenko at his own game plan by being the better boxer overall in the majority of those 12 rounds. For my scorecard, as I was scoring it, I had it 116 to 112 for Lopez. The judges, two of those judges had a similar, but there's this one judge, Julio Letterman, who had a, I guess all of us could say, an egregious scorecard for Teofimo, but we'll get into that later on. But first, let me go to Courtney. So Courtney, give us your breakdown of the fight and how well did it match up with your expectations for the fight?
All right. As far as the scorecard goes, with that Julie Letterman turned in, I kind of have a divergent opinion of the majority of boxing pundits and the boxing public as far as saying that's an egregious scorecard. For me, I scored the fight 9-3 in favor of Lopez. The thing is, like, the reason I'm not saying it's egregious, even though I disagree with it, and it is, it is pretty wide. I think the thing is, the rounds that Lomachenko won, or that you could score for Lomachenko, or that you could give to him, those were still close rounds. So, I mean, with them being at a different vantage point, and obviously being ringside, and there not being a crowd there, or much of a crowd, I know there was a limited amount of people they allowed in, but with them not being much of a crowd to be swayed by, in terms of that, I really, as far as people calling for Julie Letterman never to be able to ref a fight again, or saying that she should be suspended or whatever, I gotta disagree with that. So like I said, it was wide, but I didn't think it was egregious from the norm. And I think a lot of people are saying that because of emotions and with with the passions that they had about their predictions, particularly that Lomachenko was just going to go in there and dominate this kid, Lopez, and it was going to be like Lopez didn't deserve to be in the ring with him and stuff like that. And what we saw was the total opposite from that. So I think a lot of people they still have that intact, solidly in their minds and in their heads, that Lomachenko was going to go in there and have it one way, and it didn't. And I think when people do that, they start desperately looking for rounds to give that fighter as sort of validation for what they felt or their prediction. But I just don't see it like that as far as in concern to Julie Letterman's scorecard. Where my prediction was at, I know a lot of people said I wavered because I really was non-committal on a solid prediction, and they, since they thought I was hedging my bets. But I said it all along. The smart money was on Lomachenko, and if this fight, if we rewinded it and didn't know the outcome, I would say that time and time again that the smart money was on Lomachenko, just based on his skill set and what he's his resume and what he's accomplished so far. As far as there's some opinions going to, well, Lomachenko was a total fraud, this and that. He was never all that or anything like that. I think those are completely casual opinions and they're based on emotion too, as far as them having a problem with Lomachenko being more or less universally regarded as the number one pound for pound. That's an opinion and that's a rating that I strongly disagreed with, and since still do. I think what we saw last Saturday is that Lopez went in there and showed us that if you had a problem with Lomachenko being number one or being regarded as the number one pound for pound, Lopez showed us why. He basically put the writing on the wall and solidified the notion of why Lomachenko was overrated in terms of being number one. Is he overrated in terms of being a great fighter or being masterful, being as skilled as he is? Certainly not. Certainly not. I still maintain that Lomachenko is a great and dazzling fighter. I think he's going to continue to go in the ring, and we're going to continue to marvel at what he's able to do. But basically, he got his first official and real welcome to 135, and that was humbling. Lopez, we saw, since we basically saw that 135, there are not too many world class solid operators within 135. Pretty much they're trickled down to probably Lopez from what we saw, Devin Haney, and possibly Gervonta Tank Davis. So that's that's why I saw it. Had a shout out to Brandon Griffith. Had a fight, had the fight party at my house. We both saw it pretty much the same way. I think he gave one more round to Lomachenko, but I mean, we went in there and we sat down and we saw a very masterful performance for Lopez. And like you said, a lot of boxing pundits were saying that he was going to have to knock him out in order to do it. I think that's what is the most shocking thing about what we saw. Is we didn't. I don't think anybody saw that coming, where Lopez was going to go in there and basically completely nullify everything Lomachenko was doing. And then when Lomachenko got on, Lopez was able to face that adversity and weather that storm. From being hit and hurt by some really good shots that Lomachenko threw at him, and also with being cut and being headbutted the way he did, and being able to fight through that and put together that last round that he had, completely surprising. But so I mean, I'm of the opinion I'm not at all surprised by the win. But what I am surprised is at the fashion that win came in. I thought it was going to be basically two paths to victory for Lopez. I either thought he was going to be way down the scorecards and have to pull something out of the bag and knock Lomachenko out late, which we know Lopez is, he's pretty much like a Deontay Wilder, where he can, he can rely on that power, sit down and land that solid punch out of nowhere at any point in the fight. He's got that game-changing power. I thought that would be certainly an outcome. Or if you went in there like Salido and just used that reach and that size advantage and used, some borderline dirty tactics to just go in there and basically just punk Lomachenko the way we saw Salido do. So, I mean, I thought it was going to be one of those two things, and we just basically saw Lopez go in there and fight like a grown ass man. He put together a very astute and a very mature and very posed performance. So, hats off to Lopez. We just witnessed the takeover, and it was televised.
Uh, a quick follow up question to you, Corny. So having you said that, you think it would have been a less of an impressive victory if Lopez won the other way with a knockout? Because I think we saw a different side of Lopez now, showing us that he's not just um, uh, a knockout artist. He could if he really he has the capability of outboxing as good as a Lomachenko. Your thoughts on that, Corny?
I mean, in terms of would it be a less of a regarded win if he'd been like down the scorecards and knocked him out late or whatever? No, I think that would have been the expected outcome from a lot of people who had him, who had actually picked him to win. Um, and like I said, what we've seen from Lopez time and time again, that was certainly a possibility the whole time. And there was a few times in there where Lomachenko looked like he was ready to go. There were some times late where Lopez actually looked like he might have been ready to go. Um, as far as the night ending early and that fight ending by a knockout. But no, I don't think that would have been a less of a regarded way for him to win. But what I do think on that point is that they, as far as the calls and the clamors for a rematch, they would have had more validity if he had been down on the scorecards and pretty much came back and knocked him out. I think the calls for a rematch would have stood more firmly on those grounds, as opposed to how we saw him win. It was pretty much, he kept Lomachenko honest for the first 7 rounds. And then, Lomachenko, he said before the fight that he was going to basically take Lopez into the deep waters and drown him. Lopez proved that he is a very adept swimmer. So obviously that worked. So, I mean, with that, we saw Lomachenko have a strategy, and it failed miserably. And I think, with like I said, with the calls of an egregious scorecard by Julie Letterman, even with those, even the people who were saying it was too wide, most of those people still had Lopez winning decisively on their cards or what they scored at home. So, and the crazy thing is, like I said, to begin this, is that the smart money was on Lomachenko. But if you're a gambler and you follow the lines out in Vegas, this was your dream. This was your come up. This was the lick that you got to hit, because we saw how the line moved, where Lomachenko was somewhere between 450 and 600, in Vegas, and what you saw is a lot of money pour, onto Lopez's side. I've seen, just on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, even people on Snapchat and things like that, where people, when they saw the line, they were booking tickets to go out to Vegas to drop, to drop money. This was the fight, people. If they got the wild hair, they were, they were mortgaging the farm, mortgaging their house on this fight. And a lot of, a lot of people who bet the underdog came away, with a lot to show for it off that. So, as far as that, but I mean, to go back to your question though, I don't think I don't think a Lopez knockout late or down on the cards would have delegitimized this win in any way.
Good stuff, Courtney. Going to you, Mr. Gary Kittleson from 3D Boxing Blog. Give us your assessment of the fight, and also a specific question for you, Gary. How much you think did the 14-month layoff for Loma? How much do you think played a factor into his actual performance? Because as we all saw, he started out slow. He didn't really put the gas in the pedal until towards until a little bit after the middle of the fight. So speak on that too, if you can.
A lot of fighters with everything that's been going on with COVID have had layoffs. Tio had a layoff since December. That's 9-10 month layoff, longest layoff of his career. Like it may have had some impact. He might have not been as sharp, but it wasn't going to change the outcome of the fight in any significant way. Lomachenko was a guy who's been active, so maybe it had some impact, maybe early, but he got outboxed. He got outjabbed. I don't think that was going to change. I don't think he was off or having, had his timing off or anything like that. I just think Lopez was the better boxer, and that was a shock to him, right? Like, I'm going to make an analogy, right? When Shane Mosley, who I picked, fought Floyd Mayweather, Mosley was always the better athlete in the ring, the quicker guy in the ring. When he fought Mayweather, now he wasn't, and he didn't know what to do about that, right? So after the second round, he just lost every round because he couldn't adjust to not being the better athlete and the faster guy in the ring. When Loma found himself the inferior boxer with the inferior jab, he really couldn't do much. And I agree with everything Courtney said to the T. Courtney took the words out of my mouth. As far as the decision, I had it 9 rounds to 3, just like Courtney did. I gave the 8th, 10th, and 11th to Loma, and I gave every other round to Lopez. The only rounds I thought Loma clearly won were the 8th and the 11th. The 9th and 10th I thought were both swing rounds, and I thought Lopez clearly won every single other round. If you gave other rounds to him, you were looking to give him rounds. I heard people gave him the second round. He didn't win the second round. He landed one left hand, and Lopez dominated the round. Loma did better in the 7th. He still lost the round clearly, right? If you gave him those rounds, you were looking to give him rounds. why you were looking to give him rounds, I mean, we could talk about that all day, right? I mean, but he didn't win those rounds. The only rounds he clearly won were 8 and 11. So in my opinion, Julie Letterman's card was off by 1 round. Her card was more in line with what happened than Andre Ward or Teddy Atlas, who scored the fight even. That fight was in no way, shape, or form an even fight. Like, I thought I was going to be the one that came on and defended Julie's scorecard. You know, I'm glad Courtney did it first. So now, you know, someone else agrees with me. But I don't think her scorecard, I thought it was 1 round off. I think anywhere from 8-4 to 10-2 was the right scorecard. There were 2 swing rounds, the 9th and the 10th, depending on how you scored those. I was with, you know, you guys. I thought Lopez had a chance, but it was going to have to come with his. He was going to have to bring heavy artillery. You know, he's got a dynamite left hook. I thought, you know, if he could put 2 or 3 of those together, he could stop Loma, who I think is still a little small for the division. He's been hurt before. He's been dropped by Linares, right? Who is fast, but he doesn't have the one-punch power that Lopez has. So I thought Lopez. I mean, I picked Loma. I thought Loma was going to win a clear decision, right? I thought Loma was going to outbox him. That obviously didn't happen. I thought Lopez didn't jab enough. I thought when he fired off his hooks, he swung a little wild, and he was so quick that he could make up for it. But a real technician would be able to counter him, and I thought Loma was that guy. Lopez's boxing skills, his jab, his defense, his footwork is so much better than I thought it was. I don't see this guy losing to anyone at 135. Let's see. That was a masterclass performance by Teofimo Lopez, and it's just going to be interesting because what is he, 23? He's only going to get. This could be the beginning. Everyone was comparing this to the Canelo Mayweather fight. I was like, nah, I think De La Hoya versus Whittaker is a better comparison. I think, you know, we saw 2 things with that Lomachenko is no Pernell Whittaker, right? Like he couldn't make, and I know Whittaker lost that decision, but Whittaker clearly won and got robbed. And I thought that Loma could do to De La Hoya. I mean, Loma could do to Lopez what Whittaker did to De La Hoya, just make him look bad. And look, you may have a time and you're a great fighter, but that time's right now. This is still my time. And I thought Loma was going to do that, except Lopez is that good.
I want to add something on top of that, you know, and I'll be really brief. Me and Brandon, we were watching the post fight where they were speaking to Teofimo's father, Teofimo Lopez Sr., and he raised a point that everybody was touting Lomachenko's amateur record with these, you know, I think he was 396-1 as an amateur or whatever, basically 400 amateur fights. They, you know, a lot of creed was given to Lomachenko off the strength of that point, and that is an impressive record. But he raised the point that he was like, you know, my boy had 200 amateur fights, and a lot of those were international, at the international level as an amateur. So he's like, we got amateur. So as far as people being surprised or whatever, we're not, because we got that amateur pedigree as well. And, you know, in Teofimo Lopez, he went to Rio in 2016, didn't make the U.S. Olympic team, so he fought for Honduras, lost in the first round, I believe. But, you know, there's a few, you know, saying Hall of Famers and future Hall of Famers who went to the Olympics and lost in the first round. One of them mainly being Miguel Cotto. So, you know, since sometimes you have a style that's better suited for the pros than the amateurs. But that's not to say that you don't have that good amateur pedigree, because, as Andre Ward likes to say, last American male to win a gold medal in the Olympics. The point he likes to make is, if you have a lot of amateur experience, you're good to go, because you've basically seen every style out there. You've just seen it in a more condensed form, fighting 3 to 5 rounds as opposed to a 12-round fight. So, I mean, I thought that was a great point that Teofimo Sr. Raised, in saying that, you know, damn Lomachenko's amateur experience for 400 fights. You know, saying we got 200. You know, and so, I mean, and we saw against Lomachenko is Lopez had pedigree as well.
Sorry about that, y'all. I had a connection issue with my Ethernet.
Oh, you're good, man. And Corny, great follow up to great points to follow with Gary. Tommy, give us your breakdown of the. Give us your breakdown on the fight, and did it match with your expectations? And speak on it, Tommy.
So yeah, it actually did match the expectations. It didn't match where my pocket was. I'll say that. So, like
hey, we've all been there.
Hey, just like everybody said, man, I did go with the smart bet. I'm known to talk a little shit and try to rally it up a little bit and get people fired up. So I'm willing to take those chances, especially when it's a smart chance to take. But I was very adamant on saying that, I felt that Teofimo would do a great job in this fight. He wouldn't be dominated. I did believe that he was going to show us something that a lot of people haven't seen Lomachenko, have to experience. And we saw much more than that, on that night. We saw him absolutely nullify, Lomachenko's game plan. He made, I know there's tons of memes and there's a lot of jokes to go around about the Matrix and collecting data, but that whole 7 rounds, that wasn't collecting data. He was actually being stopped. There was some solid body shots being landed. His Teofimo's jab was right there. It was sharp. It was crispy, and it was strong. He was willing to trade with him. He was going to the body, very solid, and he actually made Lomachenko realize that his time to step up was way too late. And when he did step up, I agree with everybody else that round 2 and round 7 were thrown up in the air. I didn't see it. Right after that fight, I was like, maybe I need to go back and watch round 7 again, because I know round 2 was definitely not for him. But I did. I had him winning 8 through 11. Like Gary said, 9 and 10 were very, very close rounds. I did give him those rounds, and I did feel like he had some momentum going. But that round 12, man, round 12 is where champions, them championship rounds, and round 12, Teofimo got in there and bust his ass, man. He showed his grown on that night, and in that round. He showed that what Lomachenko was doing, it was way too late. Now, and body shots, like I said in the beginning for Teo, that was something that Lomachenko, completely failed to do. He did not go to the body that much, and it showed in that round 12. After he had that momentum for a few rounds, Teofimo still had it in the tank to get in there and bust his ass. And it was a wonderful fight. I'm halfway happy. I lost those bets. Like I said, my pocket is not happy on that, but I'm actually happy because I did want Teofimo to pull that out. And either way, it was going to be a win-win. This is an absolute major win for him, and he's got the right to talk some of that shit that he's saying right now when they're talking about the rematch, and he's like, rematch for what? Like, I'm ready to keep going. So. Shouts out to Teofimo Lopez, man. Wonderful win. And, I'm glad to see it. And I'm ready to see what's next for him, in that division and further wise.
Good points, Tommy. And also, Tommy, I'd like you to respond to this comment made by Sean. And also, Courtney and Gary, you're welcome to chime in afterwards. Sean Fitzgerald from Just Boxing Live, he comments, Loma had the best 2 moments in round 2, the most significant punch of the round, and the best combination. Because his activity was so slow, it became a swing round to many viewers. So, Tommy, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I could say that, yeah, he did land, a significant punch, but still, I think that the ring was being controlled, and Teofimo's jab, which may, to some, the jab may not mean that much, but the way that he was landing that, controlling the ring, swing round or not, I had that one going to Teofimo. It was just, Loma was not, he was nowhere near started yet, and so I didn't give him that round at all.
Great stuff, Tommy and Courtney. Your thoughts on round 2 specifically, in regards to Lomachenko possibly coming back in that round?
No, that was a Lopez round. I'm sorry. We're talking about rounds, beer. We're talking about rounds, man. Lopez clearly dominated this fight, man, and we're trying to nitpick a round that Andre Ward gave him on the broadcast. So everybody is trying to load up, and that's not directed at Sean Fitzgerald. I love Sean Fitzgerald. I love his show. Love what he's doing. But I mean, I'm just as far as what I'm in the mood for right now. It's if we're gonna nitpick rounds, if we're gonna nitpick scorecards, and still concede that Lopez won the fight, I think I think a lot of it is sounding like sour grapes. I'm not saying Sean Fitzgerald particularly is on sour grapes or whatever, but I mean, no, I'm sorry. Those first 7 rounds clearly Lopez. And I mean, to say Lomachenko didn't do anything in the first half or the first 7 rounds, no, of course it's a boxing match. You know what I'm saying? You have to be you have to be on God status to go in there and not get anything solid landed on you over the course of 7 rounds. So you know what I'm saying? Yeah, of course Lomachenko. You know what I'm saying? He had spots, he had moments in those rounds, but for me, the way I look at a fight when I'm scoring or who to give the round to or whatever, I'm not looking at the the moment where I was impressed or the moment where I saw something that I hadn't wasn't seen to begin with or whatever. I look at the overall, what was that round like, and and the concept of stealing rounds, based on a good flurry or based on landing a good shot before the bell rang or whatever. When I look at fights and I'm looking to score, I'm not a professional judge, and that's probably why I'm not. I mean, it's whatever have you, but I mean, I'm looking at that round holistically, as far as what was done and what guys were looking at as far as offense, defense, and ring generalship. And I think in round 2, Lopez was he was tops in that.
Good stuff, Corny. And how about you, Gary? Do you view round 2 in the same light as Sean, or do you think you're just as good as any round for Teofimo Lopez?
I agree with Courtney. I mean, look. So who had the best punch of the round? It was probably Loma, right? He had it was a good shot. It was a good left hand, and I caught Lopez flush on the chin. So chalk that up to Loma. The other 2 minutes and 50 seconds of the round was controlled by Lopez. So I'm not gonna. That better if you're gonna win a round off of one punch, it better be some punch, and that just wasn't it. It was a good shot, it was a clean shot. It caught his attention, caught it well, but Lopez dominated the round. Like you said, ring generalship. He caught him with jabs. He controlled them. I mean, the first 7 rounds, Loma landed 31 punches. Now I'm not a CompuBox, fanatic. It's one person counting punches, but it shows how that fight is going. Lopez was outlanding him, outworking him, and outclassing him. One good shot. It was a good shot. Didn't drop him. It didn't buckle him. Right. It was a clean shot. It doesn't win the round. It doesn't carry the round when the other guy dominated the rest of the round.
Good stuff, Gary. Also, shout out to Sean Hicks from En Vivo Live Boxing Podcast. They had it. Sean Hicks from that program, he had it 8-4 for Teofimo Lopez. Yeah, we're excited about the new wave of fighters coming out as well. Including Teofimo Lopez, who has now become the youngest 4-belt champion at lightweight. So definitely a rosier picture for Teofimo Lopez. Now, moving forward, but within the same realm of the subject, let's talk about the immediate future of Teofimo Lopez. Before we mention any names in the horizon for Teofimo Lopez, let's get this subject out of the way. Let me start with you, Gary. What do you think about a rematch? Do you think it's merited for? Do you think it has merit? Or, well, my view is, I don't think there should be a rematch. I think Teofimo has shown enough why he's earned the respect enough to move on and move the lightweight division forward. And I'm excited to see what comes. What's in store from beyond Lomachenko. But your thoughts, Gary, as far as the rematch angle of it is concerned?
Look, I'm okay with the rematch. It wouldn't be my first choice. There are other names I'd like to look at. Loma is still a top guy in the weight class, so whenever 2 of the best guys in the weight class fight each other, I'm okay with it. I don't like. I'm not demanding a rematch. Like I think that it was clear. I don't think Loma can do much different. People say he needs to start earlier, but even when he started earlier, he really only clearly won 2 rounds. So it's like it's not like he dominated the second half of the fight. You know, I don't know what he can do much differently. So I don't think a rematch would look that much differently unless Lopez really tried to get him out of there, like it really picked up the pace. But if Lopez sits back and boxes like he did, it's going to look the same. So I'm not against a rematch. Like I wouldn't be upset by it, but it wouldn't be the first fight I would make it. You know, I would rather see Lopez fight other guys. I think he's passed the Lomachenko test, and he's proved to be better.
Great stuff, Gary. Tommy, your thoughts on the prospects of a rematch, or you're just like, hey, let's just move forward with those 2 fighters going their separate ways. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, man. I would definitely watch it. I think we would all watch it. But yeah, that's not something that I will be looking for next, and that's not something that I've been really even speaking about that should be next. Even according to Teofimo, he's not looking for that to be next either. He's ready to just keep it moving. So I would love to see that. I would love to see the rest of the new wave fight each other. Get in the ring and really keep pounding. So I mean, I think it would be a little bit of a better fight if they did have a rematch. Well, that depends on Loma's shoulder, which we can talk about that. Purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka, but on his Pacquiao. But so we could talk about that, and if he came in looking different, but I think Teofimo will still win that fight. I say keep it moving.
Your thoughts, Corny? You should your thoughts on a rematch, or we just should keep it moving?
That gif the gif for that meme that's going around where Shannon Sharp is just shaking his head saying nope. that's pretty much me. I'm completely disinterested. Just basically from a personal aspect, I think Lomachenko, when he was being called out by Lopez, a lot of people were like, "Yo, Lopez is being the one who's arrogant or whatever." No, Lopez was the fighter. He was the young fighter, the young hungry lion on the rise. Of course, he was supposed to call out Lomachenko. That's what boxing, is. Like we don't exactly follow a sport where dudes are taking out white gloves out of their pockets and slapping each other on the face 2 times and saying, "I challenge you to a duel," or sending emissaries to one another's castle or whatever, saying, "May we engage in a pugilistic contest." No, he was winning fights. They were putting a camera in front of his face. He was saying, "I want Lomachenko." So I mean, but I'm the one. I think Lomachenko's response was arrogant, saying, "Oh, go get you a belt," or who is Teofimo Lopez, and knowing damn well who was. And then when Teofimo got him a belt, you want to rush into the ring and snap pictures and be cordial and hype this fight or whatnot. So I mean, on that end, now that they did get in the ring and handle it, and we saw what we saw, I would if I'm Lopez, I'm gonna say fuck you too, pretty much, and go get you a belt now. Or become my mandatory. But I think Lomachenko is best served to take his ass back down to 130, and should he do so, he's going to give us some great fights, seeing who is at 130 right now. But looking at the current 135 landscape, and we're seeing Devin Haney is out there, and that fight can be made. I'm all about seeing that next. There was nothing I took away from the Lomachenko Lopez fight that would make me think it would be the other way around. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, Lomachenko's got that data to go into with his ring IQ and stuff like that." Well, Lopez, he showed a pretty strong ring acumen himself, and who's not to say Lopez hasn't collected enough data to go in there and knock his ass out next time around. So I mean, but ultimately, okay, as far as do I want to see a rematch? Ultimately, y'all know I'm a crackhead. If they want to bring B-Hop back for a charity fight against a circus elephant, I'm going to watch that shit. If it's on pay-per-view, I'm gonna look to go in with somebody on that shit. Like that's just where that's where I'm. So as far as asking me, being the person that I am, would I watch it? Like I'm gonna watch any 2 people go in with boxing gloves. That's just how much of a fiend that I am. But as far as do I think a rematch can be sold at the level of the first fight to the public and where people would clamor for it? Yeah, like I said, depending on what other sports are on TV or what they're going up against on like that on that night or whatever, there could be a substantial audience for it. But does the boxing need a rematch between these two? No, we saw what we need to see.
Generally, I agree. Good points, Corny and Gary, and Tommy. Also, let's now talk about other names. Since we're done talking about the rematch aspect. Now, as far as Teofimo Lopez, the names that are on the immediate horizon, as far as the lightweight division, we got Gervonta Davis.
Forget about it.
I know, you already mentioned it, but I'm just for the record stating he's the current WBA regular lightweight champ, but he has his battle right now with Leo Santa Cruz. So let's put that aside. We got Devin Haney, as you already mentioned, Corny, who's the regular WBC champion. So Tommy, let me go to you. How do you see them two matching up between Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez? Your thoughts on that?
Hey, man, I think that would be a banger-ass fight. Hey, and they already clapping at each other, man. The two-time email champion and the asterisk champion, as they're calling each other. So, hey, they already trying to get the little war of words going right now. So let's go ahead.
I'm going to 140.
Yeah, exactly, right. So let's get that shit going, man. That's a fight that I want to see. But yeah, I think that would be a solid ass fight, man. And we've been waiting to see Devin Haney, actually get in there with a really good name and a young name too. We ain't talking about like Gamboa or but somebody that's gonna really really push him. So I'd love to see that fight, man. But I mean, in that fight, that's a damn good fight, man. That might be about a 55-45 type fight, 60-40 type fight if you really want to push it. But that's a hell of a fight, man. I don't even know if that would be one of them fights that's so damn good. I wouldn't even be one to say who I got, and I wouldn't even score it. I would just sit there and watch that shit and just enjoy it right there, man. Like, yes, bring that shit immediately.
And also, another avenue that Teofimo could take is going up a division to 140. And I'm glad Sean Hicks brought this up. He's wishing that Teofimo will go up to the winner between Taylor and Ramirez at 140. Gary, give us your thoughts. Give us your thoughts on the prospects of Teofimo deciding to go up a level and competing at 140.
If he goes up to 140, he's got the size, he's got the power. He'll be fine at 140. Those guys at 140, all three of them, Prograis, Taylor, and Ramirez, those guys are real good. I'm not saying he's going to beat all those guys, and I think Prograis might be a bridge too far, but he's going to be really competitive and could beat any of those guys, right? No, I don't think 140 is going to be a problem at all. Just as a boxing fan, though, there is so much talent, young talent at 135. I want to see him stay there and fight those guys. I want to see him fight. I know Tank, you said it's not going to happen. It probably will, but Tank and Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia and Hector Tanahara. I want to see him fight all those guys and, kind of have like a new 4 horsemen all at 135. If he can continue to make that weight class, I want to see him try to run through all those guys. If he can, if he's outgrowing the division, there's no shame in that. I think he does fine at 140. I think his speed and his power and his size translates well. Fine, it's only 5 pounds. I think he could potentially beat all those guys with an asterisk near Prograis. I think that's the best fight you can make. But if he fought Taylor next, and I would pick Taylor to beat Ramirez, I think he could beat Taylor.
Great points for everyone. Yeah, so it's going to be – he has a lot of avenues to take as far as Teofimo Lopez is concerned.
As far as a 140, as far as
go ahead, Corny.
As far as Prograis, Taylor, and Ramirez, and I'm sorry, Prograis. I'm saying he's a Stanley 8 alumnus, but I think he dogs all 3 of them out. Especially Ramirez. Ramirez is tailor made for him. I think Taylor has got some giddy up and that might be a challenge as far as chasing him down the ring. Prograis, I think Prograis could possibly be his toughest fight. But I think Prograis has shown some defensive liabilities that would be very dangerous against the guy of Lopez's caliber, and especially this new wrinkle we've seen in this game as far as his boxing ability and his boxing acumen. But I mean, he continues to box like he did against Lomachenko. 140 is his. But yeah, I mean, as far as the guys still down in and around 135, as far as like I said, Tank, Tanahara, those are PBC aligned guys. I think those are fights that are completely inconceivable. But as far as Devin Haney and as far as Ryan Garcia, yeah, definitely. And I would actually be more excited to see Ryan against Ryan Garcia than Devin Haney, even though I think Devin Haney in him is more competitive than Teofimo Lopez and Ryan Garcia. But Ryan Garcia and Teofimo Lopez, just basically as far as who they're bringing, as far as audience wise, and what there would be to discuss pre-fight. Of course, there's the hype, the trash talk, the shit talk. I think that would be the most entertaining fight that could be made at 135 when you look at the whole, from the promotion to actually them getting in the ring. The most competitive fight though, as far as in the ring, in action, as far as what we can see, is probably Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney.
The one thing I wanted to add, right? We're talking about the rematch before, and here's why I'm not opposed to a rematch like you guys were opposed to it. Like, it's not my first choice, but because you know what Bob Arum's going to make next? It's not going to be Devin Haney. He's going to keep it in the top rank circle, and he's going to fight George Kambosos next. And I don't really want to see that, right? That's why, like, you give me Kambosos or Loma, I'll take Loma.
Great stuff. Yeah, so great segment on Teofimo Lopez versus Lomachenko. Great points, great post-fight thoughts from everyone. Moving forward, we got something big popped off at Mexico City on TV Azteca, and it was also a DAZN broadcast last night, Friday. 2 days ago, Friday night. It was two big nights, two big wins for Juan Francisco Estrada and Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. They both fought on the same card. Juan Francisco Estrada, he stopped Carlos Cuadras in their rematch in the 11th. I'm sorry, my mind's all over the place. It was a big brawl. It was an 11th round stoppage, with Estrada retaining his WBC Super Flyweight title. Very important to note, Estrada recovered from a knockdown early in the third, but in the 11th round, Cuadras got knocked down twice before the ref stepping in to call off the fight for Estrada with the victory. On that same night, Roman Gonzalez defeated Israel Gonzalez by unanimous decision, retaining his WBA Super Flyweight title. So talking about these two fights simultaneously, since his loss to Chocolatito back in 2012, Estrada has gone 15-1, which includes his revenge win against Sor Rungvisai and successful defenses of his current WBC Super Flyweight title. And as far as Chocolatito is concerned, he's been on an upward momentum as well. Since his only two-loss chapter with Sor Rungvisai, he's been on a 4-win streak. One of those wins coming from his 9th round knockout of former WBA Super Flyweight champion Yal Kaliafai, which Tommy Rush Jr. briefly interviewed for the Vargas versus Garcia card back in earlier this year in Dallas. So having said all that, Courtney, let me go to you, man. With both of them being successful on that Friday night, how excited, and break us down the fight of the potential rematch between Juan Francisco Estrada and Chocolatito Gonzalez.
Yeah. First off, I want to say that was a triple header because we also saw another
Yeah,
great little
you
guy
go ahead, mention
on
him. I
that
forgot to
card,
mention his name.
Julio Cesar
Yeah,
Martinez. That boy is cold blooded. What we saw in that first fight, how it started off with him defending that WBC Flyweight title against a guy, Moises Calleros, who
yeah,
came in and blew weight by 5 pounds and looked like it possibly outweighed him by as much as 10 pounds the night of the fight. And what he was able to do to that dude, wow, that was I like you said, I'm a big fan of the smaller divisions. I'm so excited that they're getting more of a platform as boxing has transitioned away from the TV networks and to the streaming sites. So we get to see more fights in addition to the main cards and up and down the preliminaries, and that's where a lot of times they stick these guys, even if they're fighting for titles. It's on the preliminaries or off TV bouts or whatever. But now that those are getting exposure, I'm so glad that that guys like that are getting to make performances in front of a broader audience in the boxing public. So that if you're not familiar with Julio Cesar Martinez, the guy he's the goods, and he's probably going to be making the jump up the scales really soon. And I can see him having kind of a meteoric rise up the scales in the smaller divisions, kind of close to the level that we saw with Inoue, Noya Inoue. So I was very impressed, and I got you. So if we're going to talk about that card, I got to give him a shot as well. As far as what we saw with Estrada versus Cuenca, um, or Cuadras, excuse me, their first fight was an absolute banger. So I fully anticipated the rematch between these two, and I love Cuadras. Cuadras is always down to talk mass amounts of mucho grande amounts of shit. And the thing is, win, lose or draw, he goes in there and he backs it up. Great. So that great performance by Estrada to do what champions do and get up off the canvas and take care of business. Also, all of my hat, completely goes off the Cuadras, especially considering what he's dealt with the substance and the alcohol abuse and coming back from that. Um, we kind of saw a guy with him who had all the talent in the world essentially hit rock bottom and then come back to be fighting at this level. So when you see a guy like that, basically able to turn it around for himself and be at that level, even if they come up short, I feel like Cuadras walked away the winner or a winner from that fight. Just basically, and it was good to see Estrada's corner come over and lift his hand up as well. Because that was a great fight for the fans. That's just what we love. That's what that fight is, just a microcosm of why people are continue to be fans of the sport, because it had everything. It was back and forth. Those guys went in like two true Aztec warriors do in the ring, because they don't know any other way to fight. Great fight. Like I said, Baranchik and
Zepeda.
Zepeda, yeah, Baranchik and Zepeda. That's not even the front runner. That's the clear cut fight of the year. But what I'm saying, if there's levels, if there's honorable mentions, or there's a runner up or whatever, you got to put that fight between Estrada and Cuadras in consideration. And just great that that's just a great way. I'm so glad we're leaving off in 2020 with so much uncertainty in the sport, and basically a stop to the sport. We saw in the first part of the year, and we're able to see fights like that, and guys come in and give that type of effort to close the year out. And as far as Chocolatito versus Gonzalez, that was like the Latin Snake said on the commentary, that was a vintage Chocolatito Roman Gonzalez performance right there. Where he is and what weight he's fighting at, and where he is as far as age wise, there's really no turning back the clock. So Chocolatito is ancient for a 115 pounder. But for him to go in there and to basically, I wouldn't say he turned, I guess there's no turning the clock back, but to dig in and to show those flashes of brilliance, to show his former self against a solid opponent like that, and to set up the rematch between him and Estrada. that made me, for a while, I was saying that we'd waited for the rematch between Chocolatito and Estrada for so long. It had grown, the prospects of a rematch had pretty much grown stale, and and especially seeing where these guys have gone since then, where Estrada has been a war after war after war. Chocolatito being in a war with Rungvisai and then getting knocked out emphatically by Rungvisai. I was like, maybe these guys it's not going to be the same fight, because what we were looking for in the rematch is these two dudes who were in their 20s and were just going in there gunslinging at 108 pounds. But what we saw on Friday night, both from Estrada and Chocolatito, and how they were able to deal with both of their opponents or whatever, that gave me renewed vigor as far as wanting to see the rematch between those two. And the fact that, we got the television, so the money is going to be there for them to make the rematch. And I think that was the big stickler, is that Chocolatito and Estrada were saying that we want to give people that fight, that rematch, but we want to get paid commissary to what we deserve, to what kind of fight we're going to put together. But, and I think that was the stickler, is that, saying people were, the networks, HBO, they were coming in way under what that fight should have made. But now we've got, they're both on DAZN, they're both aligned with Matchroom. They've got, we've got the streaming service with the subscribers. I think there's people who would subscribe to DAZN just to watch that fight. The money's there. As my man, the late great Big Pun said, if the money's there, go ahead and spend it. Let's get this rematch on. Let's see Estrada and Chocolatito in there towards the the twilight of their careers, and to give it to us one more time.
Great points, Corny. Going to you, Gary. Give us your thoughts about those two fights that happened on that same night, and your thoughts on the potential rematch between those two gentlemen, and also speak on the fact that your thoughts on the factor that Rungvisai played in making that rematch so strung out up to this point.
Yeah, so Rungvisai really made a problem, because we've all wanted that rematch. Like Courtney said, I couldn't remember. It was 108. It wasn't even 112. It was 108 the first time they fought, right? They both filled out now. They're both, Estrada's in his 30, right? He's 30 or 31, so they're both in their 30s now. And it looked like we were never going to get that again, and then now it looks like we are. I still want to see how Rungvisai fits in the equation, right? He did not look good in his last fight, and then before that, he lost to Estrada. But
he was still really rusty.
Yeah, he's still an offensive force. Like, he's still a problem. Like, offensively, he's really good. He is in his 30s now, which is ancient for smaller weight classes. Maybe he's just slowed down. He's too easy to hit now, and he can get picked apart. I don't know, but he looked so good in both fights against Chocolatito. I don't think he's done yet. I want further evidence to say that Rungvisai is done yet, because I still think he's in the equation here at 115. As far as Estrada's performance, it was really good, and I'm glad he fought the way he did. And maybe Courtney's right. Maybe he doesn't know how to fight any other way. But he was clearly the better boxer. He's the better pure boxer than Cuadras by a mile, right? So it was like when Tim Bradley fought Provodnikov. It's like, you don't have to fight this way. You can pick this guy apart and outbox him. You can sit in the pocket and have a field day with him and just put rounds in the bank. And I thought Estrada could have done that and won a wide decision, especially what was the third round he got knocked down in. Like, I thought that was going to be a wake-up call. Okay, I don't need to engage with this guy, but I guess he doesn't know how to fight any other way, right? Like, you got two warriors in the ring in Mexico. I guess we just have to go to war. Like, there's no other way to do this. And I'm glad he did, because it was a great fight. Other than the Baranchek Zepeda fight, it's the fight of the year. And I guess when he fights Gonzalez, we're gonna have another war, right? It's gonna look like this. But there's a lot of talent in that weight class. And I want to talk about Martinez too. Julio Cesar Martinez is an animal. That guy's a beast. I don't see anyone beating him. And you compare his rise to a new age rise, which is fair. I just hope Martinez fights all the good guys at 115 instead of skips over the division like Inoue did, because that division is fun. See, if he could fight Gonzalez and Rung Vasai, he should go to 115 and fight Rung Vasai, and then the winner of that fight should fight the winner of Gonzalez and Estrada. Have kind of like a winner's bracket, but I don't see Martinez is so strong and so young and powerful. I don't see him having any problem moving up the weight class. Like, I think he'll grow into a full 118 pound and win world titles all the way up. That guy is an offensive dynamo. And then as far as Chocolatito, he looked good. I think he's not quite 100% of where he was before Rung Vasai, but he's still good enough, right? Like, he's still really good. Offensively, he reminds me it's like Duran. He fights on the inside and he throws great combinations from different angles, and he never really gives you the same look two times, right? And he's not just a mauler, and he's not just a pressure fighter. There's a lot of intricacies, and he's a really good boxer too. Like, offensively, Roman Gonzalez is as good as it gets, and he's still, I would say, 90% of what he was in his prime. Although I do think he's going to be smaller than most of the guys at 115, which he has been.
Who do you guys like in the rematch between Chocolatito and Estrada?
Go ahead. I'll go first.
That's for the panel.
As the momentum Chocolatito has been having as of late, I got Estrada eventually getting that rematch, and going off that tangent, if Rung Vasai comes back into play somehow, I also think Estrada beats him as well, and I'm going for Estrada. I think he's got. I'm basically unofficially crowning him the king of the super flyweight division. That's what I'm saying. But I got Estrada.
Yeah, I take Estrada as well, man. I think it would take more than this kind of flashback in time that we saw in Chocolatito in this last fight, which he's like a old legendary samurai warrior, man. He can pull the bags, he can pull the smarts and the tricks out at any time, and he's super skilled, like you guys mentioned. But right now, yeah, I think that Estrada would take him, and y'all know how big I was on Soren Visai, man. I was clapping about that dude for a second, and I think that his last fight, like kind of like Gary, I want to see what he still has left, because that dude is fucking bang. But I think Estrada is on top right now, man. I even think that Roman Gonzalez would come back and actually beat Soren Visai. Again, if they fought. So
I think Estrada's got more in the tank. I think he's filled out better. He's a naturally bigger 115. Like he fills out bigger. And I think there's more left in the tank. I think Estrada would. I think it's competitive, right? Because I don't think Gonzalez is going to get blown out by Rung Vasai. But I think he's going to be in the fight. I just think Estrada's got more left, and Estrada would win a decision.
Great points for everyone. Actually, we have Michael Gomes in the chat, and rebounding back to our previous topic, he has a comment as far as a rematch prospects between Loma and Teo. He says, Michael Gomes, the rematch is going to happen. The fight peaked at 2.8, competing with other events. The money in the rematch is there. Bob isn't allowing that money to go to waste. Tommy, let me allow you to. Do you have any thoughts on that? On what on Gomes' thoughts on the rematch?
Hey, I'm glad that Gomes said that, because when Courtney was talking, I was thinking that is a little not necessarily that it was gonna happen, because I mean Gomes is right. Bob is about that money, and we know that. So especially as much as he's been doing for the game right now. For all of the shit he's been putting on ESPN, not going to pay-per-views and all of this stuff. I mean, he just gave us a great fight. I could see him taking advantage of it the next time. And I don't think that one would be on a free on free TV. I think that one might be a pay-per-view at that point, because it actually did do amazing numbers for that night, man. So, do I think it's going to just a foregone conclusion that it happens? Not as much as Money Man Gomes, but but I do see the absolute sense in that. It makes absolute sense for Bob to take that.
Corny, any follow-up comment to that as far as what Gomes is saying?
You know what? This is the thing about Bob. He's about, like, saying, like Tommy said, he's about that money. Bob Arum will pull the tape. He'll pull the rug out from under a fight so quick if you quote him on that bullshit. And this is what Teofimo Lopez is going to do. He is going to want an insane amount of money to rematch against Lomachenko. And Bob Arum will tell you real quick, yo, you're tripping. You're not going to get that. We was like, what I'm saying? As far as Al Heyman will go find that shit. Al Heyman will go find that money to make it happen, especially when he was in bed with Steven Espinoza. They was, I really think they was going over to the cartels in Mexico or down in Colombia or hitting, whoever's left in the Italian mafia to get that money. Like if you look at some of the, because when Dan Rafael was with he was still the primary writer for ESPN.com and he was doing the boxing coverage. Before the fights, he would always drop how much the purses were, and you look at some of those old school PBC fights and how much these guys were getting in relation to who they were fighting. I would just shake my head sometimes. It's like, I cannot believe that. And that's just the reported purses. That's not the money they would get on the back end, bonuses or money or percentage from from the broadcaster, from the network and stuff like that. So for them to, particularly if you guys remember Danny Garcia, and some of the money he was getting to fight, the Rod Salkas of the world and stuff like that, So, and Bob Arum definitely does not play that game. So that's conceivably, I see the point that Michael Gomes is making as far as the viewership numbers, but and like Tommy said, if it went to pay-per-view, I would see it going to pay-per-view is that's the only way they were going to be able to come up with the money to pay Teofimo Lopez. And the thing is, when you do that, when these networks go pay-per-view to meet the purse demand of a certain fighter, they're taking a very serious gamble, because a lot of times, as we saw with Showtime and the money they were paying for Floyd, even though they made that up between Canelo and the Pacquiao fight, but when Floyd Mayweather was getting $35 million to fight Robert Guerrero or fight Maidana for those two fights or whatever, those numbers from the pay-per-view in relation to that $35 million they were paying Floyd, that didn't break even. A lot of people don't think about that, and that's what happens a lot of times when networks will go ahead and meet the demand, the exorbitant demand of a fighter, and say, well, we'll make a pay-per-view for it to happen. A lot of times they take a loss in doing that, because those viewership numbers do not come back the way, we saw a fight that peaked at like 2.8, 2.9 million when it was against baseball and college football, because it was on regular TV. That's not an indicator that it's going to be 2.8 million buys. You know what I'm saying? So that's a very serious gamble. And so just how I see that is, Teofimo Lopez is going to want a lot of money in order to get back in the ring with Lomachenko. And if the dollars don't make sense, Bob is going to be like, all right, you can fight George Kambosos. We'll put it, and we'll put it on ESPN Plus. It's like, so I mean, that's honestly, that's the way I see it going.
Good stuff. Gary, your thoughts on what Gomes is saying about the rematch being likely? His thoughts on the rematch, basically.
I think if there's a rematch, it has to go to pay-per-view, and that could be a deterrent, right? Look, the purses were reported, and Loma made 3.5, and Teo made 1.25. That seems like Teo just wanted to get the fight made and took short money, because Really? That's it? He gets a 30% cut of the purse? It seems like he deserves a 25% cut of the purse. It seems like he deserves more than that, right? Like, he's put big numbers up. So if they did a rematch, I don't know that Loma's going to take it for less. And Lopez needs to be the A-side, so he needs to make more now. So that means you got to pay him at least 3.5, if not 4. So now you got $7+ million. That's got to go to pay-per-view. I mean, there's just not enough money to guarantee everyone. So,
there's no live gate. There's no ticket sales.
It's tough. I mean, I think it's at the point now where each guy's going to demand too much money, and then it kind of has to go to pay-per-view. And I don't know how that does it. Although it was on against Alabama, Georgia, which is the best college football game of the regular season. It was on against Game 7 of the American League Championship Series in baseball, and it still did $2.8 million. So, I mean, maybe this goes on pay-per-view and it does a really good number on pay-per-view. But I think if there is a rematch, it would have to go on pay-per-view. And I think that might be a deterrent because it's like Courtney said, they don't want to lose money on it. And there's no guarantee that you're going to make money on a pay-per-view.
And you got to remember, when they were doing all of the negotiations for this, Tio said he wanted 2 and didn't get it. So he come in and now he didn't wax Loma. He gonna want his money.
I need at least 4 because if he's gonna get 3.5 again, I need 4. I need to make more than he does. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just reality.
Yep.
Yeah. And Lomachenko had to, his purse where he made $3 million. That's his guarantee. Lomachenko doesn't fight for anything less than $3 million. You know what I'm saying? Per his contract with and Crawford got the same contract with Top Rank, and that's obviously you can make the guarantees on those purses because of the funding they have now from ESPN, ABC, Disney, the parent companies or whatever. So I mean, but yeah. So I mean, to get in again, Lomachenko is still going to have to get at least $3 million because that's in his contract. That's what he gets paid to get into the ring for, $3 million. And so I don't see Teofimo Lopez accepting less than less than what Lomachenko is going to get paid. So even if they match and they're going to get $3 million each, that's $6 million. That's a $6 million purse for for a fight of that caliber or whatever. That's gonna be really hard to do as far as what the ESPN pay-per-view numbers have done in previous fights. Like when we saw Crawford fight Amir Khan on ESPN pay-per-view, that only made about 250,000 sales. So as far as buys for that pay-per-view or whatever. So I mean, I think he could do more than that. But if Crawford fighting Amir Khan and then getting 250,000 buys didn't break even, then that's gonna be a long haul for a Lopez Lomachenko pay-per-view to break even or to make a profit or whatever. And I think in the environment where we are with COVID and there not being a lot of live sports, even with us getting to the other end of this pandemic. I don't think ESPN is taking that loss or is going to be in the market to take it.
Hey, like Sean Hicks said, man, bring it on to Texas. We got live gate in Texas, baby. Come, hey, Tio done already fought here in DFW, so bring it on back, man. Jerry got it. Let's go. We'll put some more in the seats.
Good stuff. Just one more comment I want to highlight. Stephen Fogman states, what's up, man? By the way, he says, depending on what happens this weekend with Tank, that's probably the next fight for Tio. Either that or Haney. But as we all know, because of the promotional barriers, a fight with Tank Davis is going to be very unlikely. So most likely it's going to be Haney. So we'll see what happens from that. Well, that's going to conclude it for episode 61 of the Standing 8 podcast. I'd like to thank Tommy Russ Jr., Courtney Tanner, my usual suspects, for joining me. And last but not least, Gary Kittleson from 3D Boxing Blog. Gary, thank you so much for collaborating with us tonight and also on our previous shows. You've been honest with on those as well. We thank you for that. We thank you for being that for your participation overall. Any closing thoughts, Gary, before we end it tonight?
No, I always love coming on. You guys can have me on whatever you want. I'm a fan of the show first, right? Like
Thank
that.
you.
know, I think you guys do a great show. So it's a pleasure and an honor to be on. You guys want to make predictions real quick on the Tank Davis Leo Santa Cruz fight?
Go ahead. You want
Um,
to go first?
yeah, I think Tank stops him late. I think if this fight was a couple years ago, I think when Santa Cruz still had that high real volume and that real high punch output, it may go a little differently. Maybe able to make Tank really uncomfortable. But as it is right now, I think Leo will have moments to win some rounds here and there. But Tank Davis is too physically strong and too physically gifted and too powerful. I think he stops him around round 10.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I got I already stated it, but I'll state it again. I got Tank Davis by late stoppage against Leo Santa Cruz. Corny, quick prediction. I know we'll get it to later on, but
controversial decision that's going to go Tank's way. I think Lopez is going to make Tank look very shaky and very suspect. I think just like Lopez was undervalued coming against Lomachenko, and we're kind of seeing the opposite effect of where we had Lomachenko and Lopez was undervalued because he was the younger, conceivably inexperienced fighter. I think that we have a situation with Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz where Leo Santa Cruz is being undervalued when he's the experienced guy. So I mean, I think ultimately how I see play, it's going to be a very competitive fight. But I think Leo Santa Cruz is going to ask a lot of difficult questions of Tank Davis, and I think that's going to be. I think it's going to be one of those things where he wipes a brow when he rolls out of San Antonio with a decision. And the main reason I'm saying that is because I've said it all along. For as good and as talented and gifted as Tank Davis is, and he's being lauded and praised for, he is very defensively liable.
Mm-hmm.
And Leo Santa Cruz is not a dude you want to fight and be defensively liable against.
Definitely not.
Because he will hold you accountable. And I think there are going to be spots and moments in that fight where Leo Santa Cruz is going to hold Tank Davis extremely accountable for his lapses.
Good stuff, Cordy. Tommy, your quick prediction for next weekend?
I would like to go with y'all and say that Tank's gonna get him out by KO. But just like Courtney said, man, there's still some things that Leo has to bring to the table, and I don't think he's gonna be that far off yet. And shout out to Sean Hicks saying that Tank won't make weight. So there might be a little bit of an issue there as well. But once we get down to the nitty gritty of it, because it's not gonna be an easy go for Tank. It's gonna be a little bit of a difficult match for him to try to get Leo out of there. So I actually see it going all 12. I think that Tank will win. Tank may knock him down. I don't think that he's going to knock him out. And I think that there's going to be some very solid rounds for Leo Santa Cruz in this fight. So I got Tank by decision, actually.
We'll see. Great stuff from everyone. Again, thank you, Gary Kittleson from 3D Boxing Blog, Corny Tanner, and Tommy Rose Jr., my day ones on the Standing 8 podcast. Also, our thoughts go out to Michael Gomes. He will be back with us very soon. Also, shout out to Joseph Correa. He couldn't make it tonight from Front Proof Media, but he's been a long supporter of ours as well. Hope everything's doing well. Also, I want to shout out to everyone who is present on this chat. I'm going to highlight some random comments just to highlight their names. First off, as you can see below, Sean Hicks from In Vivo Podcast. Big shout out to you, man. Sean Fitzgerald again from Jack's Boxing Live. Also, shout out to Stephen Fogmeg. He's also been a long supporter of ours. And also, Guy Purcell. He's a very frequent member from the Pound for Pound Facebook group. And also, he was on with us earlier today. Phil, No Rules Mosley. big shout out to you, man, for supporting us, and everyone else out there on the YouTube side, on the Facebook side, internet side. Thank you, everyone, for watching this podcast, and more to come. Again, this is episode 61 of the Standing Aid podcast. I'm Aaron Storial, hosting tonight from Los Angeles. On behalf of Tommy, Corny, Gary, have a good night, everyone. Peace.